Josh Lambert heads east to drop his son Dalton off at school. However, Dalton's college dream soon becomes a living nightmare when the repressed demons of his past suddenly return to haunt them both.
Welcome to Couchlock, the movie podcast. Let's take a journey into the further, spoilers and all, with Insidious, The Red Door. The first thing I noticed when just kind of dropped into this movie was just how obviously like modernized this series is now. Like, I don't know if because we just watched 1 and 2 and those are over 10 years old at this point.
Yeah,
There's
you feel the
definitely
age.
some age to them. So like
Feel it.
seeing them use a steady cam as opposed to like a more handheld style. And like the music isn't as jarring as in the first one. Like I felt like I was kind of worried about that because by the end of 2 you hear the swell of violins like 30 fucking million times. Woo! It's nuts. It's just like this didn't have that, which I appreciated, and it was kind of more understated. It still had the crazy like it used the strings, the orchestra to make the textures of whatever noises you're hearing, but it didn't go just so crazy with it like the first 2 did.
Yeah, and you do feel it kind of like right away. Even like that first like suspenseful moment where the blurry image is approaching Josh in the car, and you can like see it behind him, and then the way his head like kind of sweeps it away. It's just like more modern like editing decisions, more modern cinematography that
and a little more subtle as well.
It is, yeah. It's kind of like horror directors figured out like that you can be a little bit more reserved, and that actually can make things a little more scary, you know?
Yeah, totally. A bit more subtle, and it also the use of silence as well is really apparent.
Yeah, sound design. I think that's honestly part of what made Insidious so popular to begin with. Like even you mentioned like the wailing violins at the beginning and how it didn't happen in this one. Like back then, I think that was part of like people were
for sure was
like, that strikes terror into you.
Whereas, it's not that it's not scary, but you did hear it so many times.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's like in the theater, I was like, oh, brace yourself, here it comes, and then it like never came, and I was like, oh. Okay.
Even the title screen, like when Insidious comes up on the screen, it wasn't as like crazy and out there as the other ones were.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Which I kind of like the more understated and subtle. It just it's sort of like opened with like there's more weight to this movie. Like we're outside looking into this situation. We're catching up with these characters. It was kind of nice. It was refreshing.
And they do kind of like catch us up with everybody like in a real quick, succinct way so that the ball is rolling quickly. Like they didn't take a whole lot of time to establish that like Josh and Renee had split. Dalton and Josh have a strained relationship, and now he's going off to college. Josh has been absent, and so now he's got to like make up for lost time. Boom. Okay, perfect. That was one scene, and we're moving on, and I love that. We could get into the terror a little sooner, a little faster.
Yeah, totally. Which we do because also in the beginning is that really creepy scene when we're watching Josh in the car and you see the figure just creeping up all blurred behind him. It's just like, and that sort of goes along with the subtlety that this movie sort of starts with. It's like, it's not this crazy jump scare. It's like, and it doesn't even jump scare right there. It's just, she just kind of goes away. She disappears. And it's sort of just building that suspense there. It was just cool.
Yeah. And like even as it goes further and further, I would say like towards the end of this like act 1, Dalton goes into his first art class in college, and like boom, the art teacher counts down to 10, and as she starts to count, I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, there's consequences when you count down with this family, first of all.
Haven't you heard?
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is a bad idea. And it proves to be true because he goes and draws a demon door. You know?
Yeah, well, and that's part of this, like, the core of this movie is how, the story is how the art affects the further and how you can access that through art. And that's such a cool concept. and the way they like fleshed it out, especially in that
Yeah.
beginning part when he's drawing the door. There's a disconnection between his Dalton's face and his hand that's drawing the
Mm-hmm.
door. It's like something else is taking over. He's in that flow state.
Oh yeah, this is the undeniable grasp of fate dragging you deeper and deeper to hell. But yeah, and I love how like he takes it back to his dorm and just can't help but investigate the emotions it brought
Oh
out
yeah.
further. Like this is clearly
Like
something.
what is happening? Yeah.
Exactly. But also, like, I feel like at that point I would have been like, you know what, maybe
Maybe drawing's not my thing.
maybe I'll go back to pictures of grandma. That was much more wholesome.
So yeah, we kind of meet the comedic relief here in the form of Chris, which is Dalton's friend, and from the start, like I didn't really buy into her character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was loopholey. It felt like cheap writing, honestly. Like if the actress wasn't so good at delivering comedic lines, that character would have fallen
True.
so more flat
She
than she
was
did.
she was very good at that because she got some laughs out of me, and I even though I wasn't totally on board with her, like she did get some laughs out of me.
That was literally all we got from her though. Like the reason she was there didn't make sense. The reason she stuck around didn't make sense. Like
Well, and
and
then she's like, "Let's like we're at this party. Let's go through with people's shit." It's like, what are you? What? What are you doing?
like
No, I'm not gonna
why?
do that.
Exactly. And so like, hey, but she did spray some sort of anal cream on she pranked the frat boys with some anal
Oh
cream.
yeah, that's
So
true.
like
She's just so wacky. She's so
like
unique.
that's it. Like I guess when you're dealing with something like demons and astral projection and like all, you got to have some sort of funny in there.
Yeah,
Literally, like that was all we got though. Good acting, good acting.
yeah, it was good acting.
You got the good acting, but poor writing, poor character writing there.
But then we get into sort of some of the meat of the scary parts that happens. And this movie is just jump scare city, which usually I don't like, but I feel like it was inspired in that what the
Mm-hmm.
ways they formulated the jump scare, the build up to it was always fun to
Mm.
watch. But I do wish that we stayed in some of the more atmospheric parts of horror rather than just the jump scare. Like let's just do anything we can to freak you out right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And like you said, like they do build up in that act 2 quite a bit with the terror, and like there are quite they do kind of hit you with jump scare after jump scare after
Hmm.
jump scare. Like it's quick building, and they could have taken a little more time. Like this I feel like would have been a great opportunity to explain a little bit more about what's going on with the lipstick face demon. Like they introduce, okay, like this entity is still after Dalton.
Hmm.
Like he's kind of dabbled in astral projection now, and so like we know that's where this story is headed, but we still don't ever get to learn more about the lipstick demon. And
Yeah.
so it kind of like would have been a great opportunity for them to build up into like that final altercation, just having a little bit more like understanding and depth to it. Instead, they took that time to just scare the living shit out of us, which they did
Hmm.
100%. Uh,
Yeah, I feel like it would be very interesting to see like if they did that, if they went to more of the lore of the demon, like how long has he been around? What's the origin story of him? Like
yeah.
what happened? Like kind of break off and like show some different show some I don't know, like just flesh out that character a bit more. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, like literally this dude has been after Dalton for like a decade. Like
Hmm.
we could have
Yeah,
get a
and like
little explanation of
why
who
is he
he
so
is.
special? Yeah.
But nonetheless, that final act still delivers on a few things for me. Falls flat on a few others. Yeah, I feel like the performances there were a bit lackluster and depended a lot on, like you were saying, like the lipstick demon just jumping out at you. uh, I did, however, appreciate how they they end the movie with Josh finding this connection again with Dalton. So they like close that storyline up, check. They're back on good terms, right?
Hmm.
they tie Dalton's art back in because he's literally painting the door shut between him and the further. Uh and I like how like the art still has meaning towards the end, and that's ultimately like what saves the day, right?
Yeah.
And then I like that they finish the story off instead with like the horrible like, oh no, something bad is still in our world.
Yeah.
They finish it out with like Elise in spirit form like visiting Josh and being like, everything's gonna be chill, man. It's all good
Yeah.
now. It's all
Yeah,
good.
I definitely appreciated that, and especially like I don't know, it was relieving, like especially like even though the acting wasn't great, I was still bought into this story. It was relieving to see Josh return to himself in a way at the end there, and you see his wife invite him over like early for dinner or whatever, and it's just like, all right, everything's fallen into place. We've spent so much time with all these characters, like they deserve a good ending here.
Yes, totally, totally. And then yeah, I guess that's really where we're gonna leave off with this family. The stick around scene at the end was short, but it does show the light above the painted closed door like flicker back on. I don't know if that necessarily means that we're gonna hang out with the Lambert family any further, but I feel like we are not done with the Insidious franchise.
No, yeah,
There's
no
no way.
way. No way.
No.
At the end, there's a scene where he's painting the door over and he's like looking at it, and Chris says, you have to throw that thing away and forget it. And then Dalton says something like, no, we can't. I've tried forgetting it once. You can't forget things that bad that happen. He just said something really cheesy.
Just
And
like
I
a
was like,
corny.
what did he say? Fuck, I wish I could remember because it ringed my bell for sure. It was just like we can't let the past control us, but we can't just forget what has happened to us, even though we don't like it or something, like just overly explicative. And I was like, I really like the sentiment behind like what you're doing here, but you just don't have like, if it was more subtle, then like there was like a weird subtlety that wasn't there with the sort of more character driven stuff that was there with the more scary stuff.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I feel like is lacking the most in this movie is like you're saying, like the horror elements super well written. They nailed that. Anytime it relied on a character delivering something like an emotional line, I don't feel like the acting was super horrible, but I feel like the written words that they were told
Mhm.
to deliver felt forced and just like not right.
All right, Rachel, on this official Couchlock rating system, what do you
Mhm.
give this movie?
I give it a 5.
I was gonna give it a 6.
Oh no.
I was gonna give it a 6 because just some of the scares were like the tension was really fun, and the music was really good too. The tension building was really fun to watch. There was some really like inspired scenes, especially with the MRI machine. How like he was sitting in it and then it like got big. Like I don't know, it was just some cool imagery that was
Yeah.
some cool horrific imagery that was filmed well.
I feel like that's literally the only good thing going for it. You know what the best part of this movie was? The ghost song that played during the credits. That was Patrick Wilson's best performance during this entire movie. Was his little
I think I would argue that the other, like, even though Patrick's performance wasn't the greatest, the other characters definitely performed pretty solid.
I think that they did the best. I think they did the best that they could. The writing was more sloppy on this movie than any of the other Insidious movies. It didn't connect back to any of them as intricately or as smoothly as the other ones did. I respect that, it's been a good chunk of time and they made a good movie that could be a stand like somebody could go see this movie without having watched the other ones and catch on pretty quickly of the premise here. And so I respect them for that. But their performances were pretty lackluster and they depended way too much entirely on jump scares. That was the game here, was jump scares. And they did
That's
that
true.
really well, but in like the big world of cinema with everything that is open in this current day and age, you get a 5, and that is generous. You get
All
a
right,
5 for your jump scares.
It does not seem like I'm gonna win this argument. So
Nope.
I'm just gonna give it to you. I'm just gonna give it to you. All right, it's a 5.
Thank you.
That was good.
Patrick Wilson, you better in The Conjuring.
Damn.